We're looking at Exodus. Exodus chapter 7. Exodus chapter 7. We're going to look at the first 13 verses. So Exodus chapter 7, first 13 verses. Anybody want to read those?
I will.
You will? All right. So go for it whenever you're ready.
Then the Lord said to Moses, "See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. You are to say everything I command you, and your brother Aaron is to tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his country. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I multiply my miraculous signs and wonders in Egypt, he will not listen. Then I will lay my hand on Egypt, and with mighty acts of judgment, I will bring out by visions my people, the Israelites. And the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites out of it." How far do you want me to go?
13.
Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. The Lord said to Moses and to Aaron, "When Pharaoh says to you, 'Perform a miracle,' then say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and throw it down before the Pharaoh, and it will become a snake.'"
That's 13.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm like, my Bible has different verses.
Then Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did just as the Lord commanded. Aaron threw his staff down in front of Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a snake. Pharaoh then summoned the wise men and sorcerers, and the Egyptian magicians also did the same thing by the secret arts. Each one threw down his staff and it became a snake, but Aaron's staff swallowed up their staff. Yet Pharaoh's heart became hard. He would not listen to them, just as the Lord had said.
All right. Thank you. All right. So what does it mean as we read this text? What does it mean when God says, "I have made you like God to Pharaoh"? What do you think that means? What's he getting at there?
That he could speak for God, I would say.
That Moses could speak for God?
Because God was in his mouth.
Okay. All right. Was Moses the one speaking at this point? Because it goes on to say Aaron will be your prophet. So Aaron's the one speaking. There might be some aspect of kind of the speaking of God going on, but
I always assumed it was so that Pharaoh would accept him and not just have him summarily taken out and imprisoned or killed. Kind of as someone to be talked to, listened to.
okay. All right, maybe.
It's going to be how Pharaoh looks at him. Like maybe he is, maybe not just an ordinary man.
Okay, possibly. Could be some of that there. What is a prophet? Does anybody know just a real basic definition of a prophet?
A leader, a teacher, a follower.
Okay, leader. Real basic.
Something that kind of foretold. Don't they kind of foretell?
Well, most of the time, the prophets actually kind of told what was going on in the current generation and what was going to happen. They were kind of preachers. They were preachers to the current generation. There were times when prophets would preach about future things. That's true. It was future prophecies. But most of the time, they were speaking to their own people in their generation, telling them to come back to God or something. But a real basic definition of a prophet is a mouthpiece for another, one who speaks for another. Moses is going to be likened unto God for a number of reasons. I think there's some aspect of the fact that Moses is coming with a divine authority, right? He's got divine authority, God's authority, whatever. But also, you remember what Moses had said a number of times about himself? What did he say? I can't speak well. So you need a mouthpiece. Aaron is going to be your prophet. He is going to be the one who speaks for you. So there's a couple things going on there. There's definitely this divine authority that is going to be seen that Moses has. But Moses kept complaining that I can't speak well. I can't do this right. God says, Aaron will be the one who speaks kind of on your behalf. He's going to be your mouthpiece. So he's going to be kind of likened unto a prophet. He will speak what Moses, the message Moses is given is going on there. So there's a couple things, but think back to about the reality of Moses thinking that he couldn't speak well. God is going to give him somebody who will speak for him, in a sense, going to deliver that message. Now, didn't God already send Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh to deliver a message to him? Because they've got a message. They're going to go deliver a message, but hadn't they already done that? Yeah, they had already done that. What happened the last time they went? They were not successful at all. It made it worse. It was more horrible the second time. The people were not released. They were put under harder working conditions. There's more suffering going on, but they had delivered the message. They had gone and done what God wanted them to do. Does it matter? Here's the question. Does it matter that they did this before? Does it matter that they've already delivered this message and it didn't work? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that they delivered the message. God says, go and do it again. Now, how would you feel if you were in Moses and Aaron's position? God told you the first time, go and deliver this message. You go and deliver the message, and things get worse. Then God comes to you and says, I want you to go and deliver the same message. They're going with the same message, right? It's not like he's changed the message. I want you to go and deliver the same message. How would you feel? Frustrated.
You know, we have this saying at work, doing the same thing, the same way over and over and over and expecting different results.
Right. There you go. Moses and Aaron are thinking God is insane, right? We'd be thinking, right? Going and doing the same kinds of things, right? We don't want to be irreverent, but they already delivered the message once. Now God says, go and deliver it again. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I do have a question. It's kind of off just a little bit.
Off just a little bit. Okay, go ahead.
It's just curiosity.
Yeah.
Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Is this the same Pharaoh that Moses was raised up with?
No. I thought that it said that they changed Pharaoh and he didn't acknowledge Moses the same way.
Yeah, it's likely that this is a different Pharaoh. There's some ambiguity with the text. It's possible that this is a whole different Pharaoh. It's possible that this is somebody that Moses knew, but the ancient world, sometimes you get different rulers coming in and doing things. I'm not 100% sure. I think the text is a little ambiguous. You said it said that there was a change in Pharaoh.
I thought when I was reading it, when we were going through like the year 3 Bible thing,
Yeah.
Bible year, that it was as Moses aged, the Pharaoh that was raising him was a little more lenient to him, but not as much to the slave workers. But then as he either died or moved out of Pharaoh or whatever it was, that a new one came in and he had more zero
No, I
tolerance.
don't mean the Pharaoh that raised him, but the one that would have been like a brother to him.
Okay, maybe it was. I don't know, but it wasn't the one that was raising him.
There's some ambiguity as to who exactly this is. It's possible that he knew the Pharaoh to some extent.
Had that connection.
It's possible that there's some kind of connection going on. Now, I'd have to go back and reread the text and look into it a little deeper to be sure. I'm not 100% sure. We know for a fact that the Pharaoh, this is not Moses, but the Pharaoh who knew Joseph died, and there was a new Pharaoh that came in, and he didn't have the same respect or care for Joseph. So there was a whole different ballgame then. It's possible that it was the same for Moses. I have to go back and look. It's a good question. All right, back to our text here. So what are they to do? God gives them the message again. I want you to go and deliver the same message that produced bad results the first time. I want you to go again. What are they to do? To do it. We have a song we sing, right? Trust and obey. Right? Trust and obey, for there's no other way. As difficult as it is, and I'm sure it was difficult for Moses and for Aaron, it doesn't matter if it worked, right? If it worked, if the results that they were hoping for, that they were desiring happened. God said go, and they were to go and do it. And they will go and do it. So now, what does it mean in the text here when it says God, that God will harden Pharaoh's heart? In verse 3, it says, but I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, Pharaoh will not listen to you. And it goes on from there. But what does it mean that God hardened Pharaoh's heart?
Maybe just kind of steeled up his resolve or something. I don't believe that God left him without a choice.
Okay. All right. That's my next question. I'll wait a moment, but because that's a question I have. But
made him less sensitive. Like, I mean,
okay.
I don't know how I want to explain that. Like, he didn't care about them to let them go. It wasn't, well, I mean, then they could worship God. I mean, if we give them a break, he was just like, no, there might be light on them there. I mean, it was hardened to where it's going to be harder for Moses to get them.
It's going to be harder for Moses to deliver the people out because God is going to harden Pharaoh's heart. Now, we haven't gotten there, but this is something that comes up a number of times. But what we will see is when God hardens Pharaoh's heart, things intensify, that's true. But you'll notice that Pharaoh, it says Pharaoh hardened his heart first. You'll see that a couple times, and then it'll say God hardened Pharaoh's heart later on. Here is just saying, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart at a certain point. And so we want to ask the question, what does that mean? What it definitely means in context is he's going to do things that cause Pharaoh to not let the people go. And then the next question becomes, does Pharaoh have free will? You said you think Pharaoh does still have free will. Does anybody think that Pharaoh's free will has been taken away?
Yeah, free will to make the decision.
To choose. To choose anything. Has his free will been taken away? What did somebody say online?
I said no. I think if I hear the gospel week after week and I don't do something about what I hear, that God's hardening my heart through the word because I'm rejecting what he's saying. If I continue to reject his word, wouldn't that be God hardening my heart through the word, through his word, his command?
Yeah, very well, maybe. What were you going to say?
That, I mean, he has the choice, I think, because even in the end, he said, okay, take them. Now, change my mind.
Yeah. See, the thing is, God doesn't take away Pharaoh's free will. The hardening is more in line with what, that was you, Mike? I didn't see the name because you're over here. Was that you who just spoke a moment ago? It was Mike, right? Yeah. All right. It's more in line with what Mike was kind of talking about. The preaching of the word, and back then, this is still the preaching of the word. Whatever God's message is, would be the preaching of the word. It has a dual effect. For those who respond, it's salvation. To those who reject, it's damnation, you could say. Paul talks about we are the aroma of Christ. To those who believe, it's a sweet aroma. To those who are perishing, we are the aroma of death. The word of God has a dual effect that's going on here. So, of course, he still has free will. God is going to do, and he is going to allow certain things to happen that Pharaoh will see and be hardened over those things that are going on. But ultimately, God can say he is the one who's hardening Pharaoh's heart at the end of the day, even though it'll say, Pharaoh hardened his own heart. There's a passage in the New Testament that says God turns people over to their sin. Whatever a person truly wants, God will eventually give it to him. If you want to have a relationship with him, you'll find that. If you don't want him, he will eventually turn you over to what you do want. If you want sin, he'll turn you over to that. That's a interesting thing to think about. But
meaning he stops trying to guide you, or
right. It appears from the text that he simply will say, I respect you enough that you're going to get what you want. You don't want me. You really want to live in sin and wickedness. You want to live that way? I pursued you. Now, we don't know when that is. We don't know when God stops maybe calling someone or however he does it. But there is a point. There was a point with nations too, because God will say to Abraham, your people are going to be in Egypt for hundreds of years, and I'll draw them out. But the reason they're going into captivity is because the sin of the Amorites is not full yet. He's going to judge them when it's time, but they hadn't gotten to that limit. So there is a limit with God at some point. What that is, we don't know. So it's not like we could go around and say, well, so-and-so isn't responding to the gospel, so we can just, not worry about ever trying to draw them again. We don't know that. We're not God. We can continue to deliver the message, and God will do whatever he's doing with the word, just like he's doing here. But there's going to be events and things that happen, and God is going to do major events, right? God is going to be the cause of the 10-lesson Bible study with Pharaoh. Pharaoh's going to have 10 Bible studies with God. And he's going to learn some things through that. But God is going to do some things in all of that, and still Pharaoh is going to have free will or free choice. It's not God overriding his ability to choose, at least early on, because Pharaoh hardens his own heart. Then there's a point, we're going to get to it later on, but there's a point where God specifically says, now I'm hardening Pharaoh's heart, and he won't allow him to turn back, I guess. He has reached whatever that limit is. He had gone so far with his own that God now says, basically, I'm going to turn you over to what you've been wanting this whole time.
Once you pass that point, then there's no more chance of repentance, or?
It appears that way with Pharaoh. It appears that way with Pharaoh, that he had so many opportunities. God was doing whatever he was doing in the midst of all of that. I don't think he took away Pharaoh's free choice until it got to the point where kind of Pharaoh had hardened his own heart a number of times. It's a difficult text to look at and to think about, but that's kind of what goes on there. So it at least initially, Pharaoh still has his free will. God is not overriding that. All right, so what does God want the Egyptians to know? In verse 5, what does God want the Egyptians to know? Or what are they going to know? Yeah, that I am the Lord. So he wants them to know who he is. What did Pharaoh say in the beginning when Moses had come and said, Yahweh wants you to let his people go? Anybody remember what Pharaoh said? The first time? When Moses and Aaron come to Pharaoh the very first time, it's not in this text here, but in the very first time, Pharaoh responds.
Wasn't he mocking? Kind of like a mocking?
There was. He makes it harder on him, that's true. He did have a bit of maybe some mockery in there, but he basically says, who is Who is Yahweh? I don't know him. I don't know him. And then God says the Egyptians are going to know that I am Yahweh. They're gonna know me. See, the reality is Pharaoh, as well as the rest of the Egyptians, are going to know God in an experiential way. They didn't know him relationally. They didn't have a relationship with God. A lot of times the Bible, when it talks about knowing someone, it's relational. Not always, though. And here is one of those passages where it's not relational, it's experiential. They're going to get some real knowledge, but it's not going to be head knowledge. It's not going to be book knowledge. It's going to be knowledge that's experienced. I'll give you an example. The difference is this. How many of us here could read an automobile manual on how to fix your automobile? Anybody who can read, right? We can read it and we can gain some knowledge. But most of us probably don't know how to fix, and tear apart an engine, even if we know the knowledge intellectually. There's a difference between head knowledge and experience. Pharaoh and the Egyptians are not just going to know about God, they are going to experience who God really is. And so that's what God says. Yahweh says they are going to know me. They're going to experience something. Somebody online have something? Okay. All right. So are Moses and Aaron willing to do what God says, even though they didn't get to do the desired results the first time? Are they willing to do what God wants them to do the second time around? Yeah, pretty simple, right? They're going to do it. Is there something we can learn from that? Obey. Yeah. Have some faith. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I think that might be something we can think about too. It doesn't matter what it looks like. We are to go and we're to do what God says, even when we don't see the results that we desire. Have you ever delivered the gospel message to someone and they've rejected it? Have you ever delivered it maybe more than once to that person? Have you ever tried to reach out and get a Bible study going with someone? Have you ever done those kinds of things and you've not seen any results? Have we as a church, the body of Christ here, ever reached out into different communities trying to reach people for Jesus and it doesn't seem to work all the time? Can that get discouraging? Okay, all right. It can get discouraging, right? It can feel like, why bother? And yet God says, keep going. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside. It didn't matter what it looked like with the Egyptians and Pharaoh and the Israelites. You've got a message to deliver. It doesn't matter how you feel. Did God ever ask Moses and Aaron, how do you guys feel about this? He didn't? He didn't care what they, like, if they were upset? Like,
well, I mean, okay, when Moses first complained, or whatever you want to say it, that he was not an orator, that he could not do this, God did then say, I'll send Aaron.
Yeah, and he was not happy about it either, though. He was not happy, but he still sent him to go. When Jonah says, God gives a message to Jonah, did it matter how Jonah felt? Did God care that Jonah did not want to go? He gave him choice, but all along the way, God was putting some roadblocks in his way. Jonah continued to rebel against God, even the whole time. He finally goes and does it, but we see that there's still rebellion there. But the reality is, God doesn't go to Moses and Aaron and say, how do you guys feel about this? What do you think? Do you think you want to go again? He doesn't have that conversation. He doesn't really care how we feel, in a sense. He's got a message that needs to be delivered. And the only obligation we have to God is not to tell him necessarily how we feel. We can do that. But really our obligation is to do it, is to do what he says and to trust him enough to say, We don't see how it's going to work out. Moses and Aaron didn't see how it was going to work out, and yet they go and they do it. So I think we can learn a lot there from Moses and Aaron. I think we can learn a lot from the fact that even if we don't get the desired results that we think we should get or we want, sometimes we're told to keep going, keep doing the same things over and over again. That's right. It's over and over again, right? All right. What do Moses and Aaron come to Pharaoh with? Because they go to him. What are they? With a negotiation? Okay. Good guess. It's wrong, but good guess. in this text here, they have a message, is one. Let God's people go. But they're also going to come with something else this time around. They're going to come with the staff. Yeah. They're going to come with some power now. There's some power behind it. So they're going to come with a power. They're going to come with this miracle. The staff is going to turn into a snake. Now, when they come with the miracle, what happens? What's that? It's magic. Pharaoh doesn't believe it. Why? Yeah, he's got his magicians and stuff that come and are able to do the same thing. What do you think that's telling us?
Well, everybody's got an excuse for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an excuse for everything. You can find a reason not to believe. Could this be one of the ways that God is hardening Pharaoh's heart by allowing something that is a fake miracle to go on? Could that be a way in which God is hardening Pharaoh's heart? Well, we don't know if it was. It doesn't say that this was like their staffs truly were. They performed the same thing. Could it have been a sleight of hand? Did they have magicians back in the ancient world? They absolutely did. Yeah. They had charlatans in the ancient world. We know of it today. There were people who walked around claiming to do certain things. Do we have magicians today who by sleight of hand could make something appear that you're pretty sure wasn't there? Sure, they do it all the time, right in front of you. What's that?
Sure. I was saying, yeah, it's on TV all the time.
Yeah, and they do it in crowds, right? There'll be these street magicians who will go out in front of large crowds that'll be all around them, and they'll do these amazing tricks. Everybody knows they're fake, though. Listen, we're not the only ones who were capable of doing that in the 21st century, right? They had these kinds of people in the ancient world. Now, there's one of two options with what's going on here. One is this was a demonic miracle that God allowed to happen, that they really were able to let their staffs turn into snakes. Or they are charlatans and it appears that they're doing the same kind of thing. Counterfeit miracle, that kind of thing. There's a lot of counterfeit miracles that go on today in the name of God. If you've ever been there, charismatic healings and all of that kind of stuff, there's a lot of things that go on. Even in pagan cultures and stuff, there are things that look like miracles or whatever. They're counterfeit. They're charlatans. So one of two options. It could be a demonic kind of miracle going on. I personally, to be honest, I lean more to the idea that this was magic, that these guys were sleight of hand magicians that were doing something that appeared to be this way. And I'll give you a clue as to why I think that. There's a certain point where they're not able to do what Moses does. There's a certain point where they get to the limit of their ability to do this magic stuff. So I think they're doing it, but it's a counterfeit miracle. But either way, it doesn't matter. Now, when you say
that, you're talking about the ones that Pharaoh brought in.
Yes.
So, okay, I guess I didn't realize it. I I thought he said that I have people that do that. I didn't realize that he actually brought them in.
Yeah, no, there's people that do that, right? And in fact, what happens? Yeah, the staffs go down and they turn into snakes.
You are not talking about Moses' miracle.
No.
Okay, that's where, okay.
Disconnect. No. Moses, when Aaron drops his rod, that is the real miracle. But there's magicians around who are doing a counterfeit miracle. Oh, yes. Oh, we can do the same thing, Pharaoh. Look at this. I think they're sleight of hand. Yeah, I think they're sleight of hand, but no. Aaron is actually, God is doing a real miracle there. Absolutely. When all of the snakes are on the ground, what happens then? Aaron's snakes eat all the rest, which tells us what? There's something about it. There's something different. Okay, you guys throw some snakes on the floor. Maybe this was a demonic thing or not, but there is power over even these. Whether they're real miracles that these magicians are doing or not, the real miracle that Aaron is performing by God's power is more powerful than even what these guys are doing, and their snakes are being eaten out. It shows that Aaron, obviously it's God, has far more power and authority than these guys do. All right.
And so
Can I ask just one question?
Yes. Go ahead.
Would there be any significance in the miracle starting out as being a snake? In the sense that the first battle with evil with him is with the snake, and the snake is a symbol, it's satanic, that God is powerful over, Satan. I mean, it just occurred. I hadn't even given any thought to that being anything credible, but I just wondered what your thoughts would be on that.
I hadn't thought of that either. And the reason I hadn't is because God is using a serpent to defeat serpents. I could see it if it was something. I could see, maybe if there was something else that was conquering the serpents, but it's another serpent. So I'm not. It's kind of like when Israel is in the desert and God sends the vipers and the people get bit, and then there's a bronze serpent that's put up. God uses the serpent to cure the serpent. I mean, the bronze serpent is a picture of Jesus, but I don't know. I'm not sure that I would go that route with you, Mike. It's possible, but I
was just wondering.
I would need more. I'd have to be convinced of that. There'd have to be some more kind of connections made to that. It's possible, but it doesn't seem likely, at least to me at this point. Good question, though. Good question. All right. So, again, might this be one of the ways that God is hardening Pharaoh's heart?
It says, and then his heart was hardened.
That's right. That's right.
Because he